Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Talk Tent. I am joined by three lovely ladies who I will ask to introduce themselves in a moment, but we're here talking about myths, movement, and modern truths. So this afternoon we're going to be thinking about women's health and challenging some of the outdated narratives that we hear about women's bodies, movement and well-being, and connecting lived experience with how we actually move, live and get cared for. So I am joined by three amazing women, and I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves individually now. So if I could start with you, Alexandra.
Yeah, of course. Hi, I'm Alexandra. I am the founder of It's Not Just a Period, which started off as a podcast and now has become a brand all around advocating for women's health. So my personal journey is very much linked to living with stage 4 endometriosis and adenomyosis. I can see some nods, so clearly there are some ladies that can resonate with that. I was diagnosed when I was 18 years old. I lived with symptoms since I was 16, and there's lots of different things that I can tell you that we'll come into with the questions, but to summarise my journey, I was told when I was 19 years old that my condition was so severe that I needed to drop out of university, never have a career, don't worry about a family or having a healthy relationship, and to go on benefits and get cared for. And safe to say, it's been nothing like that, thankfully. It's been nowhere near that. But there's a lot more that we talk about. And yeah, that's a bit about me.
Brilliant. Thank you, Alexandra. And Sarah, if you could introduce yourself.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Sarah, also known as the Mummy PT. So I work with pre and postnatal women and beyond in a fitness and exercise capacity, trying to encourage women through all stages to embrace their bodies, be strong, work through their core strength, recover, recuperate, but also have a healthy, strong pregnancy and for life to be a busy mum afterwards. I trained as a primary school teacher, but I've always been interested in exercise and how it makes me feel on the inside as well as the outside. It's helped me a lot with my mental health, and having had 2 children myself, definitely been there, done it all, and continuing my journey. But I hope to inspire other women to do the same and to enjoy movement, not just for the aesthetics, but also for their mental health as well.
Fantastic, thank you. And last but not least, Abby.
Hi everyone, I'm Abby. I run Yoga Heart Garden Studio in Harborne, and I trained to be a yoga teacher 8 years ago on my maternity leave. I used to be a secondary school teacher and switched careers at that point, and trained in Ashtanga and Vinyasa. Ashtanga's always been my own practice from teenage years, and then after that trained in pregnancy yoga, postnatal yoga. I've done anatomy courses, and I'm currently finishing a course to be a pregnancy and postnatal corrective exercise specialist. So I've got a real passion for helping people feel good in their bodies day to day, and using movement and yoga as a way to do that. But also yoga for me has been like the constant to help manage my mental health and physical health. So I'm really passionate about the benefits that it can bring to people.
Brilliant, thank you. So I'm going to get stuck straight in with our first question, which is, why do you think there's been such a disconnect between women's lived experiences and the systems that are meant to support them? And I think this is probably a good question for you, Alexandra.
Yeah, I absolutely love this question. I could bang on about this for hours and hours and hours. But if we start with some statistics, and that's a good way to kind of give some context to where we are today. So there is a 550 plus year gap when it comes to the gender health gap for research. So for 550 years, women were not researched in terms of women's bodies. Until 1997, which is the year I was born, women were completely banned from clinical trials of anything. So paracetamol, ibuprofen, any medication that you can think of, women were completely and utterly banned from any clinical trials. So when we think about women's health and the disconnect between the patient and the system itself and the practitioners, a mix of really great and not so great practitioners because they're all in there together, we have to look at the history and the context, the fact that the 50% of the population weren't included in research, in trials, studying different diseases. The condition that I live, endometriosis and adenomyosis, actually, there's no treatment pathway, there's no cure. The only diagnostic that we've got is to go inside and have very invasive surgery, which is not fun. I can tell you that. It's not fun to have someone go inside and cut you up, especially when you're quite young. So I think the bigger picture is that women have been seen definitely as a different class of citizen when we think about the medical side of things. And it's predicted that it will take 150 years to actually close the gender health gap. And that's from now. So I'm certainly not going to be here. We might be talking about my grandchildren or my great-grandchildren's generation. It's very lucky we've got some amazing innovation happening. I hope that 150 years can be a lot quicker and a lot smaller of a gap. But we've got a very big hill to climb. So yeah, when we think about the disconnect, we have to think about the historical context, because it adds so much to why we are where we are today.
Absolutely. And just for the benefit of the people that might not know what endometriosis and adenomyosis is, did I say that right?
Yeah, they're not easy.
Could you just very briefly just explain what those are?
Yes.
Thank you.
So endometriosis is a systemic full body disease. It's very widely known, and it's a bit of a misinformation, that it's known as a period disease. And it has been kind of marketed as that for a very, very long time, but it's not. It can grow anywhere in the body, from the eye to the toe to the leg, and obviously the reproductive system. I always describe it as like a blister. If you imagine a blister, and it can be the size of a pinhead or the size actually of a football. I was speaking to a lady yesterday that had a cyst the size of a football growing inside her. And this is very similar to the lining of the womb. It's not the same. Sorry, that was me. It's not the same, but it's very, very similar. And that basically grows, and when it sheds, it creates excruciating pain. There's blood in the body where it shouldn't be. And it's not a cancer, but there is some thoughts or research going on. Could it behave like a cancer? And then adenomyosis is what we call the evil twin of endometriosis. So it's the same type of growth, but it's contained within the womb. So it is basically stuck inside the womb. It can't go anywhere else in the body.
Right, brilliant, thank you. Yeah, I was going to say we might need to swap one over. So just for you, Abby and Sarah then, have you found that in the roles that you play within women's health, do you think there is a disconnect for women in terms of the expectation of what they're supposed to be achieving versus what they're actually able to?
I definitely see this in terms of what women are expected to do postnatally. That's a massive area. Obviously, the whole bounce back culture, which I know we're going to talk about in a bit anyway. But also during pregnancy, there's a lot of disconnect there with actually women being able to feel they can exercise while they're pregnant, and actually I encourage them to, and it's then, I shouldn't start exercising now I'm pregnant, I've never done it before. I'm like, no, this is the best time to start exercising. It's all just relative to where you're at. So I think there's still a lot to be learned about where people start when they're pregnant, but also postnatally. You're not fragile, you can do a lot, and it's just finding out what you can do for your body. For each individual case is different. I have people come to me saying, I can't possibly do that. I'm like, well, no, that's okay, because you're not at that stage yet. And also postnatal is for life. I had people come to me 11 years down the line having had children, like, no, but I mean, I'm my pelvic floor's weak, but I'm 11 years postnatal, so I'm probably done now, aren't I? I'm like, no,
yeah, probably just should give up. Yeah.
You're not done. You're fine. You can start any time. So yeah, there's still a lot around that area that we need to work on. Postnatal is for life, definitely.
It ultimately boils down to education, doesn't it? And actually spreading the word that you're not done once you've had kids, and actually there is sort of life after that. Absolutely, yeah.
I do think the rhetoric's changing a bit, and that women are expecting more for themselves now. But I think in the past, perhaps of the generation of like my parents, for instance, I meet a lot of women in my work that of that sort of generation that just accept very little for themselves in terms of how they feel and function day to day, and particularly in terms of pelvic floor. Like Sarah said, you might have somebody that thinks, well, they're 11 years postpartum, so there's nothing they can do about it now, and they might well have been told that, just live with it. I hear those things a lot. In my work, I was told to just live with it. I was told to just wear a pad each day and just accept it. And so I think there's that. But that is breaking down. I think women do expect more for themselves now, and are learning that we can do a lot. And the other thing that I see is in pregnancy, what women hope for in their pregnancy journey and in their birth and their labour in particular, sometimes that's not supported, because coming back to how the health system was set up and who it was set up by men, and predominantly, and also at first most doctors were men, if not all doctors. And the notion of a woman lying on their back to labour, we all know that's not a good position to be in, and that's not helpful physiologically to birth a baby. But still, despite having known that for so long, so many women are still put in that position. I was speaking to a client this week who wants an epidural, and she's been told she will have to be on her back. And I just find, setting women up to fail, because we know that's not okay, but it's still happening.
And actually it's your body, so surely your choice, regardless of what as long as it's not dangerous to either you or the baby, then ultimately it has to surely be about where you're most comfortable during that really difficult, experience that you're having, birthing a child ultimately.
And I think there's another question coming up about this, but that's why advocacy and advocating for yourself is so important.
Absolutely.
In the case of being pregnant and birthing a child, and in the case of long-term health.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just touch on that for a moment, and sort of the idea of medical gaslighting. But what does that actually look like? Because I know my experience from my first child, I probably was gaslit, but didn't know that actually I could choose, and that there was an alternative. I was just told that was what was going to happen because I had an underactive thyroid, so it has to look like this. So we might not necessarily realise what medical gaslighting might look like. So can you just talk a little bit about that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if we break it down very, very simply, if we just put it in like a really short sentence, medical gaslighting, I always describe it as you are made to feel like you are crazy. You are made to feel like you are unreliable. You don't know what you're talking about. You are not the expert on your body, and that you are basically losing your mind or losing your sanity in some way. I think medical gaslighting can actually be passive or active. So I've experienced both. So I've experienced a gynecologist sitting in front of me when I was 18 years old and telling me, if you make me do a laparoscopy, you are wasting my time, you're wasting your time, and you will be an embarrassment to the department.
And what did you say in response to that?
I said, I want a laparoscopy.
Yeah, fair.
And he had to actually, after the surgery, he had to come back in at the end of my bed in front of a group of medical students, so the next generation of people that you very much hope are going to be nothing like him. He had to give me the results and tell me that it was the worst case of endometriosis he'd ever seen in his 30 to 40 year career.
Wow. Did he apologise?
I demanded an apology. So I got one, but I got one under
duress.
Yeah, definitely. So that's an extreme version of active. But active I kind of describe as like, it's direct, it's to your face. Something is like said to you and you're made to feel a certain way by a person or a group of people. Passive in some ways is better and worse. It's almost more complicated. I think passive comes a lot from like when you're in the healthcare system, because it's so broken in so many different ways, and we don't need to go into politics because we're all sick of hearing about that, but we know it's broken in lots and lots of different ways. So when you're thrust into the healthcare system, you could actually have some fantastic clinicians, some great people, some really good intentions, but because the system around you is actually broken, you're not able to access certain services or certain scans or certain surgeries or certain things that actually you are entitled to as a patient, but the system is so fundamentally in a bad place, depending on the hospital and geography and all those things, you might just not be able to get to them, and then you're left feeling the gaslighting part is, oh, should I have asked for that? Am I being too needy? Am I just being a burden? Am I just being really difficult? Maybe I should just, shut up and get on with it. So I think there's two different types of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And why do you think that pain or problems in women get so normalised? And what can we do about that?
Because we can deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we do just get on with it. Right?
Yeah, we don't moan.
Yeah,
mostly.
Absolutely, indeed.
I read the other day, and I know it's a really well-known statistic, that 50% of women that are having a heart attack or cardiac arrest are misdiagnosed because of the way we don't present in the same way as men. Also, it's just not expected as much for women. But yeah, the way that we deal with the pain means that it's misdiagnosed. So that's just an example of how other things might be misdiagnosed. But I see the passive gaslighting all the time in pregnancy and in labour situations, and women feeling like they can't, because this is the policy of that hospital, women feel like they can't question that. Like if your waters have broken early, one hospital might have a 24-hour policy where you have to be in hospital within 24 hours. Another hospital might have 48 hours, or some of them extend to 72 hours.
So, and that can make all the difference particularly in the maternal outcomes of a situation. But women might not know that they can say, well, is there a care plan that can be put in place for that so that I don't have to come in at 24 hours? Just one example of many things, I think, along the way that are kind of inflicted on women somewhat unnecessarily.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really impactful, isn't it?
I think the postnatal care is a big one as well, going with that. And people are like, well, I've just had the baby, it's expected, that's fine. And we just crack on because we're just busy looking after the babies, but actually never really go and really delve into it. I have a lot of women come with things like, well, yeah, I am leaking, I feel heaviness in my pelvic floor, but I think that's normal, isn't it? So I won't bother, I won't go with anyone. And I had a personal incident, problems with my hormones a little bit after I had my kids. I waited 18 months to go and see a gynecologist. He wanted to just chuck me on the pill and solve all the problems, which I did, and it was horrific, and I was in an absolute terrible place. And in the end, I had to seek other help. So it was either, do you want to go on the pill or do you want a HRT? I'm like, I don't want to go. I don't want to do either of those. Could you actually help me find out what the root cause of this problem is? But they weren't interested in that. They were just like, well, here you go, just shove you on those and hope for the best. Yeah. So, and I actually stood my ground after a while. I spoke to a few friends and people who were in the know more, but I didn't know. So I was like, I'll go on the pill. Yeah, that's fine. And I did, and it was just horrific, and it really messed with me. And I just didn't know an alternative though. But we need to, I try and do, I know Abby as well, and we all try and do is outsource to other people who do have the expertise. That's really important. Don't necessarily just go with the one. You need to find other people that really are specialists in that area who can really help you.
Yeah. So how do you think that, let's say hypothetically someone has experienced something like that, they are feeling like something is off with perhaps the advice that they're being given, but they're not sure how to start to advocate for themselves. What advice would you perhaps give to someone to just take that first step?
Well, I always say ask whether the decision needs to be made immediately. So if you're talking about pregnancy, which is what I'm often working with, and you've been told some medical information by your doctor, say to the doctor, does this need to happen right now? Is baby at risk? Am I at risk if this doesn't happen right now? And if the answer is no, then you've got time to then go and seek second opinions. I'm forever recommending to people in my studio to contact the consultant midwives at the hospital, because particularly if you're high risk and you're under consultant care, consultants often have a very different view of the process to what a midwife might do. And it's not to say that either one's right or wrong per se, but one might be wrong or right for you. So it's a really good service to be able to call the consultant midwives and talk the situation through with them.
Yeah, in an actual fact, I only found out about the consultant midwife offering after second baby. Yeah. And it just so happened to crop up in a conversation. And someone went, you can go and see the consultant midwife. If that's the kind of labour you want second time around, then there is an option. But no one had offered it to me the first time around. I didn't even know it existed.
No, and I think that is something that happens a lot. While you've mentioned that point, I just have to mention this. Another thing that people do not know about is domino care. So in Birmingham, if you're near to the women's hospital in particular, or under that catchment, within half an hour, I think they say, we have a home birth team. We have a dedicated home birth team, which is amazing because most hospitals, or many hospitals in the country, don't have that. But what's even better is you don't have to want a home birth. You can categorically know you're not going to have a home birth, but you want antenatal and postnatal care at home, which is what that team offers. So they have much more time to spend with you on your antenatal appointments, and then postnatally they'll come and do all of the assessments of baby at home. But they also have midwife assistants that can help you with breastfeeding. So it can completely transform a woman's journey to becoming a mum. But half the time it's not mentioned. Most often it comes up in my pregnancy class because someone else will mention it, and then people are like, oh my gosh, that's amazing, no one's ever mentioned that to me. And it's open to everybody to refer themselves to that service. So another example of how something brilliant is there, but you might not necessarily know it. It's like assumed that you'll know.
Yeah, exactly.
Similar one is I always recommend a lot of my clients see someone to do a mummy MOT, which really we should all be getting as standard, because you do have to pay for it, and that's not open to everybody. They are brilliant things to get done, but I just feel like it's very much for people who can afford it, which is really not good either. I think that's it just should be as a standard practice.
They are available now, aren't they? But I think I've
it's
actually
not-
not met anybody yet who's had one
No, I
on the
don't- I think
NHS,
it's coming.
But in theory,
Yeah.
I think you can refer for them, but I think the waiting list is so long that...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not...
So yeah, the mummy MOT was one I was going to say about that as well, but I lost my train of thought on that one now. Yeah, anyway, it's fine.
No, it's fine. You're in a safe space.
Along the lines of what the ladies have said, actually, especially your point about what's available in Birmingham that a lot of mums don't know about, I think the broader point that I'd say about that is that, unfortunately, whether you think it's cynical or not, because things are so difficult for those working, for those running the healthcare system, and we're in the situation that we are, they are not going to volunteer a lot of information about services, treatments, or things available to you that are more expensive. And that, ethically, we can have a different discussion about that, how wrong that is and how that shouldn't happen. But the matter of the fact is they're not going to volunteer a lot of information about potentially treatments or pathways or things you could go down that may be more expensive, more long-term, have more difficulties for them, their end. But for you as a patient, that might be exactly what you need and exactly what you want. So that's why advocacy is so important, because it's about, if you can, and there's lots of different ways that you can do this, if you find it hard to do research and to go out there and look for the different pathways and choices you can make, but it's about doing that prep before you go in if you can, and thinking as much about what you want, but even more so if you don't know what's out there, thinking about what you don't want. You know, if you don't want to go on the pill, if you don't want to go on the coil, if you don't want to have surgery, you know, everything, it's as important to know what you do and don't want. And some really simple things that I tell every woman that I meet is, please don't do appointments alone. You may be fantastic at doing appointments. There would be some women out there that are like, I'm an absolute boss bitch and this person's not going to mess with me. And that's great. But still don't do it alone, because you never know who you might be faced with. You never know how you might feel. Second pair of ears, they can take notes. They can do whatever you want to do. And then the other thing is, and again, this is, I think, especially for me, a much long-term journey. It doesn't happen overnight, but it's time and time again doing different tasks or having different experiences or spending time with yourself and constantly reminding yourself that you are the expert. You're not the medical expert, you're not the surgeon, you're not the consultant, fine. But when it comes to you, what you're experiencing, what your body is doing, what is happening to you, you are the only expert in that room that anyone needs to listen to, very much including the professional sat in front of you. And if they don't listen to you, and if they don't treat you like the expert on your body, stand up, get up and move and find someone else that will, because you deserve much, much better than that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just touching on that, actually, because obviously social media has meant that we have so much more access to information now, but actually, is it counterproductive? Is it empowering? And how do you navigate through what's correct advice and what's actually just really dangerous?
Yeah, it's a really tricky one. It's a really tricky one. It's actually something that I still personally really struggle with myself. Like, we do a lot on social media. It's a really important tool. It's a fantastic tool. It obviously has its downsides. I think the number one rule is that if someone is pushing a program or a plan or a quick fix or a cure to X, Y, and Z, probably a red flag. Mm-hmm. General rule. Might not be, but I would maybe stop, think, do like kind of research it, look into it a little bit. You know, the amount of people on social media that constantly contact me and say, we've got a cure for endometriosis. I'm like, wow, there's something the rest of the world don't know then, because I'm pretty sure there isn't one out there.
Absolutely, exactly.
So I think, it's just kind of stopping and double checking if you see things that are maybe too good to be true.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the other thing is that if you find pages or people that are talking about things or telling you to do things in a certain way, there may be really good intentions behind that. But if you read it, absorb it, watch it, and it makes you feel worse about yourself or worse about your situation, just get rid of them, unfollow them, get rid of them from your page. You know, you don't need to add anything else to your plate to feel even worse about yourself than perhaps you already do, or whatever you're struggling with. So if there are people that make you feel good and you like them and you can relate to them and you're like, yes, this person is someone I want in my life, amazing, keep following, keep interacting. But if they don't make you feel good about themselves, just get rid. There's plenty of other people that will follow them.
Absolutely.
It can be really useful. It can be helpful, and it can highlight things to you that you didn't realise. You can think, oh yeah, I'm going through that. Oh, I might need to do that. That's a great one. And I try when I do it to not generalize as well and give people specific things that they can work on. But you've got to be careful. Everybody's situation is so different. You cannot compare your postnatal journey, for example, to somebody else's. It's so different. You see there's five core exercises that'll change your body, or the best ab exercises you need. No, you don't need them. Your body's different to her next door. So that's the real worry with it that I see. A lot of women come to me and say, well, I've been doing these Instagram workouts, and I'm like, oh, first when I hear that my heart sinks slightly, and I'm like, right, well, let's just home in on what you need. So I think it can be great, it can be sort of enlightening in some ways, you can find bits that are really useful like you were saying, but I think you can't generalize everybody's starting point is so different, so just try not to follow those ones, and like you said, there are no quick fixes. That is just not going to happen. That's the massive red flag. Like, just don't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. Thank you. So one of the things that we touched on was about feeling confident in advocating for yourself. But what are the questions that you'd want every woman to feel confident, or the one question that you would want every woman to feel confident in an appointment advocating for themselves? What's the one thing that you think they need to be able to say for themselves?
I think I've got a question.
Okay.
And you might have to tweak the question slightly, but generally, if you take a scenario where a young woman's gone in and she has a long list of different symptoms, she has hormonal symptoms, she might have pain, painful periods, heavy periods, she might have acne, her hair might be falling out, she might be saying, Doc, it's really hard to get up and go to work because I'm in so much pain that I'm actually missing work, or I'm missing school, or I can't go out and socialise. If in the situation the doctor turns around and go, oh, yeah, it doesn't sound great, but, like a lot of women suffer with difficult periods, you'll grow into it, you'll get a better pain threshold, it'll get better. You're just going to have to kind of suck it up, really. The question I would ask is, if a man came in with similar type symptoms equivalent to a guy's experience, would you be saying the same thing to him? Would you tell a man to get on with the pain? He'll get, his pain threshold will improve. It'll get better as he gets older. Because I'm not a betting person, but I'm pretty sure the answer is going to be no. I wouldn't be telling that to a man.
Yeah, absolutely. And if someone, I suppose this is probably directed more at Abby and Sarah, but if someone was just starting out on their journey in terms of perhaps wanting to support their pelvic floor or start on a fitness journey because they feel like actually it's something that would really benefit their lives, what's the one step that you think they need to take to start? Because often it's the starting, isn't it, that actually is the barrier, because there is so much information. We've got too much.
I would say go and see somebody one-to-one, see somebody specifically for you, whether it's a women's health physio or pelvic health physio, a PT who's specialised in postpartum, yoga teacher, whoever it is, because you could not say to a room of 10 people, this is what you need to do, because it will be completely different for every woman in there. So you need to have an assessment for yourself about your own body, and then be given a prescription of what to do from there. I think that's
it's
what
interesting that you called it a prescription, actually, because we always just assume that prescription is a physical, medication, but actually it's a really nice way of changing that into the prescription can be actually something that you can be doing to support your...
Definitely, and we are seeing that more, aren't we? Because there are I can't remember what they call it, is it lifestyle prescriptions? But there are things being offered now, like going to a yoga class or whatever, lots of different things.
We touched on it actually in one of the earlier sessions about prescribing going for a walk.
Exactly.
It sounds so basic, doesn't it? But actually really beneficial. Yeah, absolutely.
I would say go in there with a question for yourself. What do I want at the end of this? What's the end goal? And that's okay if it's aesthetics, but actually I think going a bit deeper into that, what do you want to feel like by the end of, I don't know, the next 6 months or at the end of the next year? What do you want to have changed in your life? How do you want to feel? Do you want a stronger pelvic floor? Do you want to be able to lift your children up? Do you want to be able to run around the garden with them? Do you want to be able to jump on a trampoline without leaking? Do you want to be able to, I don't know, just live an easier life? But what is it specifically? Write down those goals. I always tell everyone to write everything down. It's just, it's a good goal to have, and you can really go back and look at it and tick it off, and it feels amazing. If you're starting a fitness journey, write down what you want at the end, maybe make some mid goals and then your long term, but write it down and keep coming back to it and just keep focused on that, because that's when people get derailed and demotivated. But always just keep coming back. What do you want by the end of it? How? And try not to home in, I suppose, on all of the aesthetic side of things, although that's okay, you can have that. But really, how is it going to improve your life? That's what you want.
Yeah, because I think, so one of the questions I've got here is about modern life, often teaching women how to ignore symptoms, pushing through exhaustion, and obviously seeing movement simply about how you look. But how do you reconnect that movement with actually just the more holistic benefits of, strength and well-being and bodily awareness, as opposed to it just being about the external?
I think you get to a point in your life where the external stuff is still there and important, but actually, and I found this since hitting 40.
Yeah, I was going to say 40.
Yeah. Things change, and especially after having kids as well. I think all of that comes together. And actually, really, things now have taken a much different route for me personally as well. I do want to be able to do all the things in life, and you see a lot of that thing, training for your 80-year-old body now, being able to get off the toilet.
Yeah, absolutely. By yourself.
Yeah. The longevity aspect of things is huge at the moment, and a lot of people are talking about that, and that is really important. You put the work in now for later, basically. So I think coming back to that point, it's just, you've got to make the moves now, basically, and then it will kick in. And you want to be part of your lifestyle, get it into everything you're doing as well, and becoming, so it's not a chore, something you enjoy. Yeah. That's a big one. Don't think of it as a chore, because you'll never stick to it, you'll never do it. It's find something you like. And that might not be running. Not everyone needs to be a runner. We can just get that out, Not everyone loves running. Find something you love and you'll do it, basically.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Finding something you love, movement that you love is really important. But hopefully with that will come community as well, because that's one of the most important things for people, being able to really look after themselves, being in a community, like finding your people who will kind of help you through tricky situations, keep you motivated, keep you moving. And I'm trying to think now who said this to me earlier. Somebody else said, I was having a conversation with somebody earlier, and they said it was actually a friend that said to them, no, did you say this earlier about going on the pill? Yes, you did. About friends that said, no, that's not okay, don't go on the pill. I was trying to remember which conversation this was in. Don't go on the pill, that's not okay. Like, look for a better option for yourself. Sometimes other people that are in your community, your people, they'll be the ones that say that to you, not yourself having that realisation.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think it's a really interesting question for me to answer from my experience.
Perspective. Yeah,
so I haven't got any professional expertise when it comes to exercise or teaching classes or anything like that. I'm sure for a lot of women in this room, not whether you have a condition or whether you don't, for lots of reasons, I have had a really complicated journey with really trying to love a body that I also really hate sometimes.
Yeah. I think a lot of women could actually agree with that. Yeah.
For lots of different reasons, for body image, for just self-esteem, for conditions, it doesn't matter what the reason is. But for me personally, it's how can I love a body that I know every day is attacking me or doing something to myself and potentially destroying some of the organs that are so, so vital for me to live? How do I like a body like that? How do I be kind to myself? And there's a really close connection for me with obviously body image and then exercise, because it all kind of links together. So, and I'll be completely honest, obviously today is Saturday. Yesterday I was out doing some work, but the rest of the week from Monday to Thursday, I did not leave my house and I didn't leave the sofa because I was in so much pain and I was so exhausted that the idea of leaving the house, cooking any kind of food, doing any kinds of jobs was too much. And I've spent the entire week doing nothing. And then there's a huge amount of guilt. And then I think, I haven't gone for a walk. I haven't gone to the gym. I haven't done any strength training. I haven't done any yoga, which for endometriosis, oh my God, absolutely life-changing. But I haven't done any of that stuff. And then you feel like a failure. And then you think, okay, I haven't done it. I have to do it next week. But how do you get back into that routine? And it's so complicated and it's such a vicious cycle. So I suppose if I'm making a point, I think it's the fact that I don't personally think it's ever linear. exercise. Like I want to build a relationship and will keep trying to build a relationship with myself where I think this is a break, this is away from my desk, this is a bit of breathing space, I can have some me time, I can just listen to music and shut off, or whatever I want to do, and try and be kind and not think, well, I haven't hit my regime, I haven't hit my numbers this week, I haven't done this, I haven't done that, because life is way too short and way too complicated to give myself another thing to kick myself about, that I'm not the perfect exercise routine.
I think you've got to take that word should out. It's a horrible word, and I try and tell people that all the time. I should have done this week. People come to me, I'm like, oh, I've only done, or I should have done. Just get rid of those two words. They don't do anything for you. Consistency comes in many forms. I tell my clients, it doesn't mean you're doing an hour every day. It doesn't mean you're doing 3 workouts a week. It's just drip, drip, drip. So for you, that was just a week, okay? I mean, it's not just a week, but you know what I mean. But out of the big scale of things, just dripping in that consistency. A few minutes here one day, okay, a week off doing something isn't going to, it was what you needed. You couldn't do that. You can't, you just be kind, you've got to. Your body wouldn't have received it well anyway, even if you did do it. And
there's so much to be said for being able to actually recognise it wasn't the week for you to be doing those things. You're doing yourself a favour by resting and letting your body do what it needs to do and recover from other things, so that you can then, when you're feeling well, get back to it.
And you'll come back great. You'll come back in good form for that, and you'll be ready for it, and your body will respond to that. And that's what's important.
And I think, obviously, love yoga, but that's what I love. One of the things I love about yoga, because there's very much this message of do what feels good for your body, do as much as feels good. There's never really targets in yoga, and I think that's a very nice, healthy mindset for people that might not be able to meet targets every single day. What you do is good and enough. And the other thing it made me think of was coming back to the Instagram conversation. Those posts that you see and those influencers that are advocating for what you should be doing before 5 a.m. and all of those sorts of things.
There's only one 5 in my day.
Is that
it's
happening?
Not the AM.
No, exactly. And they don't make you feel good if you can't do those things. Like, I remember my boys were awful sleepers, and I'd see people talking about how important sleep was. That was the worst thing for me to see, because I knew it was important, but I just could not get any because my boys didn't like sleep. So getting that sort of influence out of your life and out of your mindset, I think is a really important thing to do as well.
So why do you think that rest and recovery is such a hard sell? Why is
because
it
we're in a society where we're constantly being told do more and be productive every single second of every single day. And as I struggle with this one a lot, actually. I struggle to sit and do nothing. Even when I'm sitting, I'm doing in here, and it's just, I'm really trying to train myself, and Abby hears me talking about this all the time, but really trying to train myself to not to. It's so difficult when we're embedded in my brain to be like, right, while I'm cooking tea, I'm going to just text that person back, and I'm going to help the children with their spellings, and I'm going to just prep what I'm going to do for my lesson next, and blah, 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 blah. It's constant. It's a constant tabs. There's tabs open all the time. And I think we are wired and programmed to be a bit like that. It's like that, everything you see on social media, you can have it all. No, I don't. I'm all right with not.
You can have lots of things.
I can have lots of things, but I'm actually getting better with fine and accepting not having it all, because having it all is stressing me out. So I'm okay with let's close some tabs, shut it all down a little bit. And actually then I'm a much kinder, happier, nicer to my children person as well. That's a big one. When those tabs are all open, I'm vile to those poor boys. So, and they know it as well. So I put my phone away when I'm around them as much as possible, so I can't get that, and stop it buzzing on my wrist as well, which all those things add up, don't they? But back to the rest thing. Sorry, I digress. So rest also, I think someone said this earlier in another talk, rest isn't sleeping and lying down all the time. It can be lots of other things. So for me personally, it's going for a walk, and with that I leave my phone at home, and I've stopped listening to music. Even, I know that sounds weird, I turn the radio off in the kitchen as well sometimes, because it's all this noise going on all the time. So for me, rest is just actually shutting the noise down, taking the tabs away. So rest comes in many forms, but I do think we are just being programmed into let's make every single moment productive, and we don't need to. Because actually, I'm really the opposite of it after all that. I'm burnt out, basically. Yeah. That's another issue, but yeah.
I actually think that we need rest more than ever these days. I think that the way technology is going, we're just being, in quite an insipid way, just coached into constantly being on. And you know, I think we should spend most of our day with the parasympathetic side of the nervous system being the most active side. But actually, most people these days are spending a large part of their day with the sympathetic being the active, most dominant side of the nervous system, and not even knowing it because it becomes your normal. So I think it's all the more important to factor rest into your day more than ever now.
I think I'm so bad at switching off, like the brain, like you, constantly going, always. I mean, if you're a perfectionist or someone that finds it hard to switch off, I wouldn't recommend becoming an entrepreneur because that makes it about 10 times worse.
Sleep, what's that?
I know, sleep, what's that? Social life, balance, anything, it's all gone. No, I mean, worth it because it's amazing to do what I do. But yes, it's not great for rest. So I have kind of tried to think about it just for myself, as I kind of in my brain almost think about rest as like white spaces. Anyone that grew up with the original Harry Potter, if you will kind of go on a film reference with me, the very end of the Harry Potter scenes where he dies and he goes to that, he goes to the station, but it's all white out and Dumbledore's there, but it's just pure white and there's nothing. And it kind of looks like heaven or whatever you want to call it. I try and visualize real life, what are my versions of those white spaces? And actually yoga for me is one of the very, very few white spaces that I have, because the amazing classes that I go to are so heavy on breathing and it brings in meditation, and it's not easy and I don't do it perfectly by any stretch of the imagination, but it makes me so focused on just the most simple thing of breathing that I don't have the space to be going. And that's one of my white spaces. And actually another one of my white spaces, which is very different, but is watching films, because that has huge family connections for me. It's one of the best ways that I can wind down and kind of escape and go into another world that's not reality. So for me, it's about finding what are my white spaces, and whether that's helpful, whether any of you want to take that away, you can absolutely have that. But yeah, I think that for me, it's not easy and there's not a huge number of them, but the few that I found, they do work.
I think as well, for people that find it really difficult to rest, try to bear in mind that the rest you have will then make you more productive afterwards. So if you are hell-bent on being productive, you can kind of talk yourself into some rest by knowing that you'll actually be more productive after you've rested. So there's a practice called Yoga Nidra, and scientists are calling it NSDR, non-sleep deep rest. And Andrew Huberman is a really big advocate for this, and he does it several times a day. He says 20 minutes, it's like coming into a state in between being awake and asleep, and once you've done that, you've cleared your mind, you're much more productive afterwards and can think more clearly. So that's a tip as well. If you actually absolutely can't stand the idea of resting, you can talk yourself into it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's really helpful. Thank you. So let's just move into a slightly more positive area, in the sense that what does healthy well-being look like for you specifically? Because I know you obviously come at it from slightly different perspectives, particularly for you two, but obviously it's potentially different for you as well. So what does that look like for you from your perspective?
So for me, it's loving what you do, loving what you choose to do to make you feel well and to make you well. And being able to feel good in your body day to day. You know, I know the aesthetics we've touched on that, but how you feel in your body day to day has got to be the number one priority, because anyone that's lived with pain will know how much that chips away at you. So having the focus being on just feeling good in your body and doing whatever you need to do as an individual to create as comfortable a body as you can.
Yeah. Absolutely. How about you, Sarah?
I probably will home in, very much concur with what Abby says, but also for your mental health, really. What does it do for that? Is it clearing your space? Is it, for me, going and exercising is actually my way of decompressing, and it focuses my mind on my very stressful days, or I've got lots going on. when I go and do a strength training class or session on my own, for example, I just focus on that. And I'm just thinking about the movement, and I'm even just like counting my reps or whatever I'm doing. But that actually focuses me. And I can have a really stressful morning with the kids or whatever. But my husband recognises it now, and he's like, "Do you need to go?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I could do with that." He's like, "Do you need to walk, or do you need to go into do some strength stuff in your studio?" I was like, "Yeah, one or the other." And it depends what mood I'm in for each one. But for me, it just clears my mind, clarifies everything a little bit, and I can decompress and compartmentalize everything and come out from it from there. So I use it for that. I think you have to be careful not to then rely on that as a main tool to help you, but that's why I try and mix it up a bit with doing the walking and turning off the noise, but also the strength training as well really helps me, and I come out feeling stronger physically but also mentally as well.
Fantastic.
Finding joy, I think it has to be finding joy, because there's so many things that makes life difficult, whether it's the condition, whether it's just work stress, life stress. I don't have them yet, but kids, family, relationships, the news, life, whatever it is, it can be really easy to get bogged down. And we have talked a lot about some really difficult stuff today. That's a good example. A big part of the conversation's been about all the things that are wrong and the problems and all those things like that. So the other side of that is that you have to find things that are genuinely really, really joyful. And they don't need to be Instagrammable or popular or trendy or approved by anybody else other than yourself. So for me and my family, I absolutely love spending time with my family, and playing board games is something that we love doing because we wind each other up, and it creates laughter, and it's amazing, and it's perfect for me. Watching films, watching TV. I absolutely love food, so literally eating anything brings joy. It doesn't matter what it is, but there's enough complicated, dark, difficult things going on that very, very simply just finding bits of joy, I think that's part of being healthy and having a happy lifestyle, because you can do all the perfect stuff, and nutrition's important, exercise is important, mindset is important, it's all there. But if you are just trying to fix all those things and there's no joy, time goes like that, and it's not worth it. So joy, definitely.
Absolutely. And I watched an interview with Jimmy Carr a few years ago now, and I think he said, he was asked what the meaning of life was, and I think he said something like enjoying the passage of time, and it really stuck with me. And quite often I will say to myself, am I enjoying the passage of time here? Because it's going to pass inevitably, and if I'm not, why am I even doing the thing ultimately? Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of conversation obviously at the moment around hormones, women's health, perimenopause, menopause, but I guess my question really boils down to long-term health versus quick fixes. We constantly seem to be looking for just the quick fix, the magic pill, the magic beans, whatever you want to call it. But how do we shift our mindset? Because these things have to be about the long-term benefit. How do we start to shift that rhetoric around, not just there being a quick fix, that actually this is a long-term journey?
I think it's really hard. What I was going to say was, just if it seems too easy or too good to be true, it will be. It's like what we said earlier about people selling solutions to you. Most things aren't easy. Most things do need a continuous sort of steady approach and to be done over time. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is what I would say.
And can you maintain this and make this part of everyday life without it being a chore or something you dread? Is it something that slots into your life? I think that's the key. And you need to, if it doesn't, then you need to think about it and find something that does, because we've got too much going on to add extras into our lives. The thing you see a lot at the moment is, right, I'm trying to do 10k steps a day, eat this, drink that, have my magnesium, have all my supplements. I'm like shaking. I've got like rattling with supplements at the moment. I think scale it back. And I always say to my clients, don't do it all at once. So I had a lot of my clients come and come to me obviously for the fitness side and ask me about diet, and which I love talking about because I love talking about food. But I'm always like, right, don't do both at once. If both need assessing, let's start. I kind of start because I do anyway, my job, but I'm like, let's start with the movement. Let's get your body moving. Then you're going to appreciate what your body's doing for you. And then you're going to probably think a little bit more what you're putting into it. And then we can stage that out as we go. So just scale it back, make a list, write it down, put everything down that you want to achieve, but just maybe pick one or two just to start off. Just nail them. Get them embedded into your routine, and then maybe add another one as you go, and then add another one. But just don't do it all at once, because you're just going to set yourself up to fail. Nobody wants that. And you'll get to the end of the week one and it's like, well, I haven't drunk 2 litres, I haven't done this, and this, and this. And you're like, nah, well, I won't bother. Yeah. What's the point? So just focus on the biggies to start, and then build the rest in. But just, don't do it all at once.
The biggies, sorry, Alexandra, the biggies and the basics, because they're the foundations. I know it's not sexy, it doesn't sell at all, there's not really loads of money in it. If you just look at the very basics, just eating well, sleeping well, and moving, that's it. Like, if
whatever
you've
that
not,
looks like.
Scale it back.
Yeah, like if you've not got that in place, but then you're taking loads of supplements and trying something else that seems like it's going to really get you to like a incredibly high level of something, it's not going to work. Ultimately, it's all going to crumble because you've not got the foundations there. But I think we're so tempted to do that because we want everything quickly these days. But the boring basics need to be there first.
I was just going to say as well that it's okay to want a quick fix. As in, like, I agree. Don't do it, because they'll take a lot of money and it won't work for you. It won't fix what you want it to fix. But it's okay to be sat there thinking, I am so sick of this. Like, someone give me a freaking magic pill. Like, just get it over and done with. Like, it's okay to want that. I've wanted that for over a decade, to fix all the different things that have happened to me and conditions and all the rest of it. It's okay to want a quick fix, because you've already got a million other things that you need to deal with in your life that is going on. So it's okay to want the quick fix and to acknowledge that, and to give yourself grace to be like, do you know what? I kind of wish that I could pay X amount of money for this silver bullet that's just going to sort my issue. Like, it's okay to want that, because it's like there's a lot going on. But the ladies are right. There isn't one. If there is one, you'll pay a lot of money and you'll make someone else very rich, but it probably won't have the desired effect long term that you want. It might help short term, and maybe that will get you to the next stage, but it probably isn't going to magically fix everything. So I think that's the only point I'd make, really. I think the ladies have covered everything else really well, but it's just okay to want it, because we're human.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. So we are coming towards the end, and I will be giving you an opportunity to ask any questions if anyone in the audience has got any. But I just have one final question for you all, and that is, what's a myth about women's health you'd most like to put to bed? I might need to give them a minute to think about it.
So many.
Well, let's start with one and see where the discussion progresses.
You don't need to sweat to have a good workout.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember literally pounding out on the treadmill.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Especially not if you're strength training. You're doing something terribly wrong. So actually, you don't really want to elevate your heart rate and get a sweat on to do a proper strength session. Not if you're really going in on progressive overload strength sessions. Okay, if you're going out and doing a HIIT session, which err on the side of caution of those ones if you're above a certain age. So you don't need to sweat. It's not a guide to how hard you've worked, particularly not if you're, as I say, doing the strength session. It's actually better if you do slower movements, technique, spot on, form, spot on, breathing in the right place. It is not a gauge of how hard you work, as is, I'll add this one as a little caveat, not aching after every workout as well. No, if you're aching after every workout, you're actually not strengthening the muscles. You're doing different workouts every time and using different muscle groups, which isn't over time going to actually strengthen and make a change to your muscle. So those are my ones.
So before I go to the other two, you mentioned something just then about not doing HIIT over a certain age. So just talk to me a little bit about that, because I imagine there's probably something.
Okay, it's not a blanket rule, this isn't, but advisory. It will raise your cortisol levels quite high, and it may not be beneficial for you over 40, because it obviously puts a lot of strain on your joints. It's actually the sprint training, yes. So that is more, if you follow Dr. Stacey Sims, she's fantastic. She talks a lot of sense. If you want to learn a bit more about this, because there's a lot to talk about this. Over 40, you want to be doing the high intensity, but you want to be doing it for a really, really good burst. And that doesn't mean sprint as in running, by the way. You can do kettlebell swings, you can be doing squat jumps, you could be doing snatches. But if you do it for 30 seconds, go for it full out, but then have 2 minutes or more to recover fully, properly get your heart rate back down, and then do them again. Right. That's a better way after you're 40 and as you're heading up higher in the ages, to still get that intensity in. Great bit of cardio, really good for your endurance and your stamina, but it's longer to recover.
Right, yeah, because normally you're sort of given
like
30 seconds.
40-20,
yeah.
30-30, yeah. But have that longer time and you'll come back stronger from it.
Absolutely.
You'll get more from it.
Amazing, thank you. And have you...
Dr. Stacey Sims, yeah, check her out. She's great. She talks a lot of sense.
And how about you? Have you thought about it? Okay, go for it.
So the first one is that you need to be flexible to do yoga.
Yes,
Some of my favourite people to work with are people that are really inflexible, really tight from doing other disciplines, for instance, or just not flexible generally. So yeah, don't let that put you off. The other one is that you can't build strength from doing yoga, because you absolutely can build strength. You can build a lot.
Abby's got amazing arms, by the way.
There's a lot of upper body strength in yoga, but you can build a lot of strength from it. And it's about, I think these days we really need to use our critical thinking and look at everything with nuance, because no, it's not as strengthening as progressively overloading weights over months and months. But if you're not doing any weights and you're not used to strength to like doing body weight exercises, you will get so much benefit and really grow your muscles from doing yoga. So that drives me insane at the moment. It's like anti-yoga rhetoric because it's not strengthening. It really is strengthening. So don't let that put you off. If you're doing yoga and you're thinking it's not enough, but you're still feeling the challenge for your body, it's great.
And the other great thing about yoga is it's progressive anyway. So there's different ways that you can approach various parts of it. So it doesn't have to be that you have to be the best at every single pose immediately. There's ways to progress to it, isn't there?
The other thing I think that's really good and kind of links with what Alexandra's been talking about, if you're living with chronic illnesses, it's a gentle, holistic practice, but can still reap great results because it's not high impact, etc., etc. And studies have shown that it's like one of the lowest scored disciplines for injury. So, if injury is a real concern for you because of whatever you're living with, it's a great thing to try.
Yeah, amazing. And thank you, Alex.
I am going to stick with one, otherwise we'll go to about 20, which isn't fair. So I think the biggest myth that drives me up the wall is it's okay for your period to ruin your life. It is absolutely not okay. The menstrual cycle, when it works how it should, is absolutely incredible. None of us would be here without that. Humanity wouldn't exist without that. It is a magical, beautiful, incredible thing that your body does that also links to every other single part of your body. Your brain, your heart, every single piece of you is connected to it. So when it works, it's incredible. But if your period or not having a period, because there's a lot of different conditions like PCOS, which has been renamed, and PMDD, which we haven't talked about, if having it or not having it regularly is impacting your life, that is not okay. And I don't care how many GPs or how many gynecologists dismiss it, say, oh, it's not a big deal, we'll shove you on the pill. You deserve so much better than that. So if you want yours to work better, thank you at the back, appreciate that. If you want yours to work for you, if you want your quality of life to be better, if you want to be able to actually enjoy 4 weeks out of the month, not just 1 or 2, then you have every right to do that. Every right.
Amazing. Thank you, Alex. Do we have any questions from anyone? Has anyone do you want to go for it? Can we have a microphone down here? Is that possible? Thank you. Just so that we can hear you. Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah. Thank you.
I just thought what you said about yoga, I found it really interesting because I have hypermobility spectrum disorder and I've been told to avoid yoga because of injury. So is what I've been told true, or can I continue? Because I've stopped it completely and I loved it. Can I still do that, in your opinion?
You need to
you need to think about what you're doing when you're practicing and not necessarily pushing right to the end range of your movement and your flexibility, and not leaning into your joints. But you can kind of start to feel it when, you'll feel it when you're doing that, when you're kind of just hanging out in your joints. So being really mindful as you practice not to do that. And there's so many poses. It's useful to share it with every teacher you do classes with, and they can cue to you what to do in each posture, rather than really trying to extend and lean into your flexibility, activating instead. If you love it, I would say there's no need to completely avoid it. There's somebody called Adele Bridges on Instagram who talks about this a lot, and a physio who's hypermobile called Celeste Pereira. They work together a lot, and they are like the hypermobile yogis. I think they've both got hypermobility, and they talk a lot about the mental aspects associated with that as well. So check them out. But I would say if you love it, still find a way to do it.
Do we have anyone else with a question? No? Everyone happy? Okay, that's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you, the three of you. Can we just give them a round of applause, please? And can I just ask, if people want to follow you perhaps on social media, can you just give maybe your Instagram handle?
So I'm yoga.heart, HART, no E.
The Mummy PT. That's it.
It's not just a period.uk.
Fantastic. Amazing. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.